Bushmanov's question that I referred to at the beginning of the video was how, not only what is insight or what is vipassana meditation, but how does it differ from calming meditation? In the first hand, they're not entirely different, and I think it would be a mistake to think of insight as sort of versus calm, or insight as different, because we need some level of calm, some level of relaxation in order to pursue this kind of, or any kind of meditation, really. That's one of the reasons why focusing on the breath is so important in all kinds of Buddhist meditation, really, because by focusing on the breath, we at least begin to calm down the body. And when we begin to calm down the body, we're able to focus in more intently on whatever it is we're trying to do. So, for example, it certainly does help to begin with breathing meditation if we're going to achieve jhana, but that takes much longer. That's a much more deep, focused kind of enterprise, but it is also a kind of calming meditation. If we're going to do normal mindfulness meditation, where we're just focusing on the different aspects of the mind or the body, that also tends to begin with calming. Because if we're not calm, if the mind is bouncing around too much, we're not able to focus well enough on what the body or the mind is producing for us. All we can do is focus on the blooming, buzzing confusion, which is enough for us. If that's what the mind is producing, then at least we're aware of that. But it's still, we can achieve much more if we're able to calm. So to that extent, there isn't really a hard and fast distinction between calming meditation and vipassana. They're related. You have to do both. You have to do calming if you're going to do vipassana. But I think what distinguishes vipassana meditation from simply calming meditation is that, of course, we can get to a calming meditation where we get to sort of a blissed out state, where we're relaxed and we're calm and we're not stressed, but we're just sort of hanging out there. We're not doing anything. And that isn't really what we're trying to do in traditional Buddhist meditation. What we want to do is then, once we get to that level, to use that calm to a greater end. And in particular in vipassana, there is I would say, a key cognitive aspect here. Insight into these three aspects of experience is something that is at least partly cognitive. I mean, we have to be aware of the arising and passing. Those are cognitive, those are intellectual, in at least to a degree intellectual states, because we're seeing things, we're naming things in a sense as arising and passing. Even if we don't explicitly use those words in our mind, we're at least fitting them into a kind of a cognitive role. Now that, of course, is not to say that it's merely cognitive, because otherwise, we could do vipassana meditation simply by picking up a book of Buddhist philosophy or Buddhist theory and reading about it, and that clearly would not be sufficient. So it's more than simply cognitive, but it's at least partly cognitive. And in that way, as we use this cognition to understand the world correctly from within an early Buddhist context, to the extent that we're able to then change our emotional attachment with the world. In other words, we're able to see it as non-self, as non-satisfactory, as changeable, and we're able to relax around it, which is an emotional kind of reaction. Then we're able to achieve, I would say, a more skillful state of relation to the world. So if you're interested in pursuing vipassana or insight meditation, there are, of course, many, many resources around the web, or there are insight or vipassana groups within many cities around the world. If you see a Buddhist meditation group in your town or city or a local town that calls itself vipassana or insight, that's the kind of thing that, at least at some level, they're pursuing. But if you want,
the universe itself appears to form much like a neural network, suggesting that everything in existence is a part of a giant interconnected mind. These are foundational teachings of Hermetics, and James Cameron clearly has embedded these ideas deep into the foundational structure of the story. Further, it may not be coincidental that Ewa sounds similar to Yahweh, one of the names for God in the Bible. It's almost as if through this film, we are shown this connection to the religions that we have in the world today, and how life changes when we look to the feminine side of deity versus the masculine. Throughout this movie, we see Jake begin to soften to the experience of the Na'vi. And just as this process is happening, we see a very clear juxtaposition between the two different states of consciousness. The first is the perception that you are separate from nature, a mentality embodied by the entire human army, and Jake too when he goes on his first mission. He is curious about the environment, but it is separate from him, and this is made very clear once he finds himself alone in the wilderness, struggling to survive. This is deeply relevant to a quote by Albert Einstein, who said the following: "I think the most important question facing humanity is the universe a friendly place? This is the first and most basic question all people must answer for themselves. For if we decide that the universe is an unfriendly place, then we will use our technology, our scientific discoveries, and our natural resources to achieve safety and power by creating bigger walls to keep out the unfriendliness and bigger weapons to destroy all of that which is unfriendly. And I believe that we are getting to a place where technology is powerful enough that we may either completely isolate or destroy ourselves as well in this process."
It's like the Garden of Eden. It's a real place.
How do you know it's a real place?
I was there.
As well in this process. If we decide that the universe is neither friendly nor unfriendly, and that God is essentially playing dice with the universe, then we are simply victims to the random toss of the dice, and our lives have no real purpose or meaning. But if we decide that the universe